Hello everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you an art journal page that I made in the tab bound book that I made the other day, which is it's just an art journal that I made, and I made it for this thing called Sketchbook Revival, which I joined, which is I think it I'm not sure if it goes for a month. I think it might be exercises every day for a month. And I will put a link to that below the video. I'm sure there's still time for you to join. But it's all about sketchbooks. And as I was going through the lesson for day 2, Mary Beth Shaw, who is the owner of Stencil Girl, and I'm on their design team. I kind of know her a little bit. She had a lesson that I think she called it Doodle Sketch. Now, this is something that I've done before when I was a child. It's an exercise in just creating space and then filling in the space. And when I was doing this, it was for the Art Joy Sharing live stream for Thursday, the 26th. Unfortunately, the live stream, for some reason, our StreamYard program thing that we use to connect to YouTube to live stream would not work with each other today. So I just finished it on my own. I did the first part of it as we were trying to make it work, and then we decided we just could not make it work, and I finished the page later. But our subject for the live stream was supposed to be about art tools. So I had out a lot of different types of tools that I use in my art, and we were talking about different favorite things. And that was very short-lived. It just would not work. It froze up. We couldn't get it to start back up, and we were frustrated, so we just gave up. But I did finish the page in this little tab bound journal, and I figured I'd show the exercise to you. This is something that is for practice. It's for practicing colors, it's for practicing balance, it's for trying different techniques. And all you do is you just take a pencil and you make some large motions with your hand across the page. And this creates some spaces that are sinuous and usually kind of rounded and interesting. And then you can use different techniques and styles and colors to fill them in. So, of course, my number one is collage. So I filled in a few of them with some different collage papers. I've been interested in spring colors, bright colors. I've been interested in pink and orange together right now. I go through, it's kind of cyclic almost. I go through colors and I'm very affected by what's going on with nature. I just am. I don't know why. Maybe other people don't notice it as much, but it's spring. There's poppies, there's blue lupine, there's desert mallow, there's all these different yellows and orange and pinks out there in the world. And it influences the colors that my art comes out as. So this one turned out really, really bright at the end. At first it started out kind of pastel, but then as the layers continued, it just got more and more crazy. So I added a piece of printed tissue paper, some painty paper, some old book text, and a gel print paper on there. And I just used a glue stick to do that, and then I just kind of tore around the edges. I could have been much more precise, and the way that I would have done that would be to use another great art tool, which is deli paper, and make myself a shape to cut out that would fit in there. But instead I glued it down and then I kind of tore around the edges because this is going to be a multi-layer piece. I'm not too worried about the preciseness of it, or it's not intended to be a masterpiece. It's intended to be practice and, using different tools and messing around. It's in no way intended to be some beautiful thing. So it actually turned out pretty cool, but I wouldn't say it's beautiful. So then the next way that I started to fill in some of this space is to use acrylic paint. You could use watercolor, you could use distress crayons, you could use India ink, But for this particular technique, I'm using another tool that I use a lot, which is stencils. And I have a couple different stencils on a ring here next to my desk, and I'm just grabbing those. They're all from Stencil Girl on that ring, so I can just tell you they're from Stencil Girl. You can go and look for them if you want. Some of them are club, some of them are other, stencils that I've purchased through the times. But I just was using a technique where you put some acrylic paint down and then you wipe it back up and make a pattern using wet paper towel or baby wipe. Then this next tool that I was talking about, or that I plan to talk about, is of course gel plates. I love to make prints. I love, love, love to do monoprinting. And I got out a small gel plate that's in a triangular shape, and I was using that to make some marks by using a paint shaper tool, a very small silicone tipped tool, and I drew some orange paint onto that triangular shaped gel plate, and then I just turned it upside down and used it like a stamp and applied that paint over the pink paint in the background just to make some pattern and shape to fill in that area right there. Then another tool that I like to use a lot in my art, not as much as I used to, but I still use it, is stamps, rubber stamps. And these are actually clear silicone stamps made by Brutus Monroe company, and they have a different kind of mark making style stamps. And so I mounted those on a clear block and I stamped with some permanent ink. If you're going to do it, with this exercise, you do need to do permanent ink because we're going to put more layers, more paint, more ink, more stuff over it. And so you want to make sure that whatever you've stamped onto the page doesn't go anywhere. So that's why you need to use the permanent ink. I used archival ink. Another fun and interesting tool that everyone has is different types of caps and tubes and all kinds of different mark making things that you just have around your house. I made some circles by dipping a cap to one of my glittery glue things into some orange paint and just tapping them down on the page and making marks that way. And then I'm doing some more acrylic painting. I'm just, this is intuitive. This is something that is an exercise that is intended to stretch your creativity. And then also ways to think about colors that go together, colors you'd want to put together, ways to pick a color scheme, and also practice different marks that you might want to make by your own hand in different ways. Yeah, it's just fun. So I had some robin's egg blue and some cobalt teal paint out. I had this light cadmium orange, some fluorescent pink, and then I did end up getting out some baby pink, light rose it's called, and then that Naples yellow. I've been kind of obsessed with that sort of a orangey yellow neutral lately, actually for a while. I really like that color for some reason, which I never really was a yellow person. And now that Naples yellow is just something I really like. I like it. It's kind of I don't know, it's almost orange, but not quite. And it's a very good neutral color. So that's the one I first put on with the stencils. So then I think the last color I end up using is quinacridone gold, which is a really great warmer upper to make things more warm, but that'll be at the end. The next tool I got out was some crayons. You've got options when it comes to crayons, and the ones that I like are Neocolor 2 water-soluble crayons. Other options might be scribble sticks or distress crayons or gelatos, or there's even some less expensive painty stick type things that you can get for children. There's all kinds of this type of product out there in the world. It's a water-soluble pigment and a in a format that you can use to write with or scribble with. So I started out with kind of a terracotta color and did a little bit of shading around some of my shapes, and then I blended it. I started out blending it with my finger and then ended up blending with a water brush, a water tank brush that has water inside the barrel. This type of crayon blends very well with water. So I did that for a while. Still being very intuitive. I'm just messing around. I am not thinking too hard about what I'm doing. I'm just adding and adding and adding more things. There's also going to be white and black to add all the time in anything. And you know, I like lines. I like illustration. So this page ended up getting a lot of black illustration type stuff. There was a pattern on that piece of collage paper, and I ended up just kind of tracing around it. I'm using some different types of pens. Again, that's a thing that everyone has, pens. And I've gone through experimentation on so many different types of pens, and I've settled on a couple different ones that I like. I really like the Posca pen, which is a acrylic paint pen made by Uni or Uni. I'm not sure how they pronounce it. I use that all the time. You guys know this. I also like this India ink filled brush that's called a Pentel pocket brush. And what I like about it, well, there's a few things I like about it, but one thing I really like about it that shows up on this page is that it has this little synthetic brush. It's not a marker, it's a brush, but it's got a India ink, which is a permanent type of black ink inside of it. And the brush will go from really thin to really thick. Here I am using it. If you just lightly drag it, it's a thin, thin line. If you let it press down more, you get a thick line. And what's interesting about illustration lines is when you make them thin and thick and vary the line weight, whether it's on an actual illustration or in something like this. Yeah, pretty cool pen. It can be a bit messy. Don't let your hand drag in it because it takes it a few seconds to dry, and then you will end up with India ink on your hand and all over your page, which will then dry permanently and you'll be annoyed. So it does take a little bit of practice to use it, but for something so simple, it's a really fun type of pen to use, and I recommend that. Also, another fun thing about it is that you can do some really intense shading around something if you've put like a focal image on to a page and glued it down and you want to integrate it, any type of collage that you want to integrate into your page, you can take that, mark that brush and go around it and then blend it out quickly with a water brush, and it makes intense shadows around things. So it's fun to use. Some really oddball little thing that you probably wouldn't notice. You know, it's not like you would say, "Oh, this art tool, I want this pocket brush." Like, what the heck is a pocket brush? You know, I decided to add some more patterning on there using a baby wipe with some of my extra paint and that stencil again, just going over it, adding it. Um, I like this kind of grungy, messy look. I don't want it to be too clear and precise and pristine, even though I have all these lines on there that are going to be clear, precise, and pristine. I also want shadows and smears and just different stuff, just a little bit more grungy look. So having a baby wipe, which is another great art tool. Yeah, I know you thought that was for wiping bottoms, and it is, but it's also a really great way to apply paint, to clean up paint, to clean up your stamps, clean up your stencils. It's just a very, very handy art tool to have in your studio or wherever you do your art. So then I decided I needed some more lines because you know, you can't have enough. I like that stamp that looked kind of like a ball of yarn scribble. And so I wanted to kind of continue that motif. So I took that same pocket brush and I'm just scribbling and swirling and swooshing and tangling right across the page. Uh, I don't know, it helps to connect the left side to the right side of the page. I also, on that printed paper, I made some um, lines around my little collaged on orange paper, you know, just here and there. I made some marks with paint with my fingers, just by tapping my fingers into paint and dotting them on. Also tapping my paper and my fingers into paint and smearing it, adding some white gesso back in. Then I got out this other art tool that I have, which is a needle point applicator bottle, and it has white, titanium white thin paint in it. Uh, you need a little bit thinner paint, and if you put something thicker in there, just add some water and shake it up really good. But it's fun to make marks with this. You have less control, and your gestures as you're using it become more painterly because of this tool. It's not a marker. It's a paint. You know, it's paint coming out. So I added a lot of different marks with that. I was having a lot of fun. Maybe I went a little bit overboard with the white because, yeah. But I ended up darkening things back up later with some glazing. So then I thought that that one area needed some black in it. So I got out that same lid and dipped it in some black paint and made some marks with that. Then that black paint, I thought I needed to darken up my edges all the way around the page. And so I used the black paint on my finger to just kind of smear around the edges of the pages so that it's sort of framed in, very messily framed in. And that made me happy. This book has hardly anything in it so far, so we'll get there. And then what else did I do? Oh, I also have my white Posca pen, of course, because you got to have your white Posca pen to just kind of add a little bit of stuff here and there. I put a sticker on there that's from my Brother P Touch label maker, which is a fun art tool to have in your studio. And there's my heat tool, something that for those of us who are impatient as heck, that's a good art tool to have. Always drying everything. I usually cut that part out because you know you don't need to see it. Here's some glazing medium and a little bit of this quinacridone gold paint. And this, if you have something that just seems like it needs warming up, you can glaze over it. Or if you want to add more depth in areas, you want it to appear to be deeper, this is a good way to go with glazing medium, which is just a thin, transparent stuff that you can mix acrylic paint in. You can also do this with the matte medium. If you have a fluid matte medium, you can mix a little paint in it, color it, and do something like this. It just adds depth. That's all it does, but it's cool. Then I just made some more marks and just kept going. I think I stopped at some point. You know, you never know for sure. You've got to use your intuition as to when you might be done. If you've enjoyed this exercise, this video, you know, go try it. I'd love to see in the Art Joy of Sharing Facebook group, art community, you share something like this that you did as an exercise. And this was absolutely inspired by the lesson that Mary Beth Shaw did in the sketchbook revival month long, I'm thinking, daily exercise classes that I signed up for. It's free, so you can sign up for it too. It doesn't cost you anything. I know a lot of us are stuck at home, working at home or staying at home, social distancing, staying away from the pandemic. So this is something that you should try out if you want to. You can use my inspiration, or you can go and watch Mary Beth do it in that sketchbook revival, or you can go and watch Peg Robinson on her channel. She made something like this in 2018. She already made a video with it. So same idea of making this sketchy thing and then filling it in. She has a a video, and I'll try to find it and link it below. And I'll link all the tools that I used below, and also Sketchbook Revival if you want to sign up. So I just did a little bit more cleanup, added a little bit of that fluorescent pink paint and brightened everything up, and then just kept messing around until I was done, intuitively done. So that's it for me for this video, and I hope everyone is well. I've been having tummy trouble myself, so I don't have the virus, but I've got something, and that's the reason I haven't been around for a couple days. I hope to be making more videos to entertain you while you're stuck at home. That's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.